Jamal, you've been a great bartender today. Show us how you shake it, boo. Yes! Ooh, 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 ooh. Ah, the drum!
Filed in a bizarre case after this man's body was discovered in a local reservoir.
Brutally murdered. He severed his body.
That's what the uncle of 37-year-old Jamal Parker says Jamal's killers did to him. Jamal's father told me parts of his son's body still haven't been found.
And we can't even have a regular funeral because of his condition.
They used a reciprocating saw. They bought cleaning supplies. They sprayed air fresheners. And then they went about their lives like nothing happened, while Jamal Parker's body was decomposing in a reservoir 30 miles away. The scariest part? They were running an entire criminal operation out of the same house where they killed him. Before we go any further, if you're new here, hit that like button, subscribe, and click that bell icon so you never miss a story like this. This is Crime Files, and we don't let these stories get buried. Jamal Rashad Parker was 37 years old. He was a bartender, a musician, a visual artist. He worked at Ms. Icy's Kitchen and Bar right in the heart of Atlanta. And if you know that city's bar scene, you know that means something. Bartenders in Atlanta aren't just people who pour drinks. They become part of the fabric of the place. They know your name before you sit down. They remember what you ordered 3 weeks ago. They make strangers feel like regulars and regulars feel like family. That was Jamal. His father, Charles, described him as someone who was loved by everybody who walked through those doors. His uncle Daryl McCoy called him a beautiful soul and spirit. The family's GoFundMe said he loved life and loved every person he met along the way. He wasn't just working a job behind that bar. He was creating an experience, building connections, leaving a mark on every single person he served. And away from the bar, he was still creating music, visual art, the kind of man who couldn't turn it off because it wasn't a performance. It was just who he was. People who knew Jamal didn't just like him. They remembered him. That's the kind of presence he had in a room. And it's the kind of presence that makes his absence even harder to sit with, which is exactly why what happened to him cuts so deep. Because this wasn't a random act of violence. This wasn't a stranger in the night. This wasn't robbery gone wrong, or being in the wrong place at the wrong time. According to his own family, Jamal went somewhere he felt safe. He was around people he knew, people he had reason to trust. And those people looked at him, made a decision, and ended his life. Then they cleaned up the evidence and went right back to business. Now, let's talk about how this whole thing unraveled. Because the way this case came together is almost as disturbing as the crime itself. On May 15th, 2026, Douglas County deputies responded to a call near the Dog River Reservoir along Highway 166 in Douglasville, Georgia. The Dog River Reservoir is a 256-acre recreational lake and drinking water source that sits about 30 miles west of Atlanta. It is the kind of place families go on weekends, a place people fish in walk trails and let their kids run around. And on that morning in May, someone found human remains in that water. A male, dismembered, no identification on him, no name, no missing persons report pointing anywhere in his direction. For weeks, investigators had nothing go on except the tattoos on what remained of him. No one had called the police to say Jamal was missing. No report had been filed, which means somewhere between the last time someone saw him alive and the moment his body surfaced in that reservoir, he just vanished and the world kept moving. So investigators made a decision. They went public. They released photographs and detailed digital renderings of those tattoos and put them on the news, asking anyone who recognized him come forward. It felt like a long shot, but it worked. A woman who used to date Jamal was watching the evening news when those images appeared on her screen. She recognized the tattoos immediately. Her stomach dropped and she reached out to the family. Jamal's father, Charles, then went directly to investigators and provided his own DNA sample. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation ran the comparison. On June 15th, exactly 1 month after that body was pulled from the water, they confirmed it officially. The man in that reservoir was Jamal Rashad Parker of Atlanta. 1 month. His family spent an entire month not knowing where he was or what had happened to him, while his body was sitting in that lake. Let that land for a second. And now here is where this case shifts into something that is genuinely hard to process. Because while investigators were still working to put a name to that body, a completely separate investigation had already led police directly to the people they were looking for. And the way those two investigations collided is what makes this case so layered. On May 25th, just 10 days after Jamal's body was found, Douglas County deputies raided a home on Langdale Chase Street in Douglasville. They had received a tip. What they found inside was not what you expect to find in a house, sitting in what neighbors described as an upscale, quiet community. People in that neighborhood said they had no idea what was happening behind those walls. They told reporters they were on edge, concerned about their safety, shocked that something like this was unfolding in their community. And what was unfolding was this. Inside that house, investigators found printers, stencils, invisible ink, blank registration tags, stolen driver's licenses, and manufactured IDs. They found specialized paper being used to create fake vehicle registration documents. They found a UV laser printer being used to produce counterfeit identification cards and license plates from multiple states, all the way from Georgia to Virginia. They found blank tags and equipment to produce government-looking documents that could pass as real. And in the bedroom, marijuana sitting in several trays and dollar bills with a white powdery residue right there in plain sight. The two people who called that house home were Mario Andre Barber, 46, and Brittany Amber Baker, 42. Deputies arrested them both on May 26th, and the charges were extensive. 8 counts of unlawful sale of government ID bearing a government logo, 6 counts of possession of a false ID, 4 counts of identity fraud, 2 counts each of manufacturing a false ID, unlawful possession of a state logo, 4th-degree forgery, and possession of marijuana. Baker was also accused personally of attempting to use another woman's identity to open both a Discover card and a Macy's credit card account. Court records reviewed by Atlanta Black Star show she is also accused of manufacturing at least 6 fake identification documents herself. This was not 2 people making a few fake IDs on the side. This was a sophisticated, deliberate, organized operation. They had the equipment, the materials, the process, and the customers. They were producing government documents that people were actually using, running it all out of a house in a neighborhood where nobody suspected a thing. But here is the detail that connects everything. Among the items that deputies removed from that house during the 4-day search were a reciprocating saw, cleaning supplies, and air fresheners. Not tools you'd expect to find stacked alongside fraud equipment. Not things that have an innocent explanation when they're sitting in the same house where a man is believed to have been murdered. A saw, cleaning products, something specifically designed to eliminate odor. All of it inside the home that Brittany Baker owned, and where Mario Barber lived alongside her. Once Jamal was officially identified on June 15th, investigators moved fast. Murder charges against Barber and Baker were filed the very next day, June 16th. The Douglas County Sheriff's Office stated that they believed Jamal Rashad Parker was killed inside that home on Langdale Chase Street, not somewhere else, not somewhere random. In that house. The same house that had already been under investigation. The same house that had already been searched for 4 days. The same house where that saw and those cleaning supplies were found. Think about what that means. Deputies were inside the house pulling out evidence of fraud operation, while the murder investigation connected to the very same property was still developing in the background. Everything was happening at once, and piece by piece it all came together pointing to the same 2 people. On June 17th, both Baker and Barber appeared before a judge. Jamal's father, Charles, and his uncles were present in that courtroom. One uncle described sitting through that hearing as heart-wrenching and frustrating. Watching the people accused of killing Jamal stand there and plead not guilty had to been one of the hardest things that family has ever done. Both suspects were denied bond. Baker had a private attorney present. Barber did not. Reporters who reached out to Baker's legal team received no response. Outside that courthouse, Charles Parker did not hold back. He said he wants them punished. He said he does not even think a life sentence is enough for what they took from him. And then he said something that has followed this case everywhere it has been reported. He said it is the kind of stuff you see on TV. And he said they had no remorse. No remorse. After using a saw on his son's body, after scrubbing that house clean, after spraying air fresheners to mask what they had done, after dumping Jamal in a reservoir used by families and communities as a recreational space, after going right back to printing fake IDs and running their operation like Jamal Parker never existed. No remorse. And his family cannot even give him a proper burial. Charles Parker said those exact words stand outside that courthouse. We cannot even have a regular funeral because of his condition. That is not just grief. That is a specific, deliberate cruelty that Baker and Barber imposed on this family. They did not just take Jamal's life. They took the family's ability to say goodbye to him the way he deserved. His uncle Daryl McCoy wrote on the GoFundMe page that Jamal was brutally murdered by people he knew and trusted. He was only 37 years old. He said it has totally devastated their family and friends and left them heartbroken. The page was created simply to cover burial expenses because the family now has to figure out how to lay to rest someone whose body was found in pieces. As of now, investigators have not publicly confirmed the exact motive. They have not officially disclosed the nature of the relationship between Jamal and the suspects, though the family has been clear he knew and trusted them. It also remains officially unclear whether the identity fraud operation is directly connected to his murder or whether Jamal may have known something about what was happening in that house. No additional arrests have been announced, but the Douglas County Sheriff's Office has confirmed the investigation remains active and ongoing. Anyone with information has been asked to contact investigator Natalie Polk at the Douglas County Sheriff's Office directly. Both Baker and Barber have extensive criminal records, according to multiple reports, though the full details of their prior history have not been completely released to the public. What we do know is that bond was denied for both of them, and the judge was told enough about who these people are and what they are accused of to keep them locked up without the possibility of walking out. What we also know is this. A 37-year-old man who spent his life creating things, pouring drinks, making music, making people feel welcome and seen and valued, ended up dismembered in a Georgia reservoir because he trusted the wrong people. His father found out by watching the evening news and then handing a detective a DNA swab. His family is raising money online just to bury him. And the two people accused of doing this to him stood in a courtroom and said not guilty. So here are the questions I want you to sit with before you go. How well do we really know the people we let into our lives? How does someone look a person they know in the eye and make the decision to take everything from them? How do you run a criminal operation, commit a murder, clean up the evidence, and then wake up the next morning and keep going like nothing happened? What does that level of detachment look like up close? And how would any of us ever recognize it in time? And what does it say about how we treat certain lives when a 37-year-old man can vanish, surface in a reservoir, and go unidentified for an entire month with no one having reported him missing? Jamal Rashad Parker deserved better than what happened to him. His family deserves real justice, not just charges, but full accountability for everything that was done to their son, their nephew, their person. And this story deserves to stay in the conversation until every single answer this family is waiting for finally comes. If this case got to you, please like this video, subscribe to Crime Files, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a story. Share this one. Put on your page. Talk about it with someone. Because the more people who know Jamal Parker's name, the harder it becomes for this case to fade into the background. And that man's name should never fade.